Hey, Steady Steve, please like and subscribe. Please click on the Deck Heroes icon, click on subscribe. It's 100% free. Blood in, blood out. And also don't forget to click on the notifications just so you don't miss any amazing content. This video here is from Will. Keep it real. Let people miss out on you. I didn't know what the hell he meant initially. I've seen it through one time. I know exactly what he means now. Will, keep it real. Let people miss out on you. The gist of how I understand it, see, I'm an older man, I'm in my 40s. I think this guy here is in his 20s. You know what I mean? And I think he's got that kind of, his world on some level, I think is kind of trying to fit into spaces, and you overlap with a lot of different groups, which in later life you won't have to be in the same space at the same time. You know what I mean? So maybe that's a consideration, and obviously you want to get acknowledgement from everybody, you know what I mean, to build your own kind of sense of self and your own kind of ranking within that kind of like young society, all that kind of stuff. Fair enough. I've got to be honest with you. When I was his age, I never had any of those worries. I think I was always alpha. I've got to be honest, I never had to struggle, long story short, and I never felt I had to fit into anybody else's spaces. And to be honest, I don't think I ever would have done. But I'm still me now. Me then is still the me now. I was always kind of a nice, agreeable guy. That's what it is. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of, I think the people at the top kind of set the conditions for everybody else. You know what I mean? I've always been myself, and I never had to fit into any space, and I don't think anybody else did at the time. When he says let people miss out on you, and he talks about respect, and he talks about boundaries, and putting on a facade in order to try and fit in and things like that, I do understand that. And obviously you want to be desired as well by, you know, the other gender, you know what I mean, your chosen gender, whatever. I don't want to get drawn into that. I'm a straight man, basically, the other gender. I do understand that as well. But I don't know if that involves kind of letting people miss out on you though, but I understand where that kind of, all these things floating around in a young brain are kind of at. Let's go. So anyway, the point of this video is a perspective of somebody who's in his 40s, basically, in comparison to somebody who's still working it out somehow in his 20s. And I say somehow, and I don't want to be unkind, but I say, well, I think these are things that you do figure out kind of in your teens, going into your 20s. And I always kind of think as well about whether you've got somebody in the household. You've got the yin and the yang, you've got the female and you've got the male presence. And I think in order to be rounded, you need both, is really what I'm thinking. Let's see what he's got to say. Let's go.
Don't disrespect yourself trying to earn the respect of others. I say that for a reason because there's a story behind me saying that in the intent of this video, but I want to talk about in this video in general about letting people miss out on you. And now specifically for myself, I've had a situation where I've caught myself disrespecting myself and lowering my own self-worth, lowering my own boundaries in order to earn the acceptance of somebody else. Now the interesting thing about this is that I usually don't do that. Like I'm a person who I enforce boundaries, I set limitations, I call people out on their actions, and I'm constantly like showing my self-respect. But what I've noticed and what I've started to become aware of is that with certain people, I allow them to do various different certain things. And this is gonna look different for everybody. Some people do it with people who they think have more money than them, who they see as better than them, who they see as older than them, and they almost begin to diminish their own self-respect because they see them as better than them, or they see them as like a better person in some way, shape, or form, where they idolize them over themselves. And so what I've started realizing recently within my life is how I was allowing certain people to get away with certain things, and I wasn't calling them out on it like I usually would. And so this ties back into letting people miss out on you, because sometimes that's exactly what you have to do. Like it's never worth trying to force people into your life or trying to earn the acceptance of certain people if it's going to cost you the respect you have for yourself, if it means that you have to allow them to cross certain boundaries, if it means you have to put on a facade or put on this character every time you're around them in order for them to like you, if it means like they aren't going to accept the true authentic version of yourself. Like sometimes it's just not worth having certain people in your circle if it means that you have to break down your normal barriers. Now sometimes, hey, you gonna let certain people get away with little small certain things depending on who they are. I think we all have people like that. Like I'm gonna allow my best friend to get away with certain things that I wouldn't allow my acquaintance with, so I'm going to be more forgiving to someone who's been in my life for a long time. But I think you have to put a limitation on that as well, because what I've come to understand is that people become comfortable with whatever you allow yourself to normalize, or whatever you normalize for them. So if people are in your life and they're doing these various different actions, like believe it or not, we test the respect people have for themselves. We test people's boundaries. We test to see, is he about what he says he's about? Is that boundary really a boundary, or can I cross it and get away with it? How far can I go? How much can I get out of this person? Sometimes we just do that subconsciously. A lot of people do it with like bullying. If they see, hey, you respond to this, respond to me talking to you like this, and I know I can get away with it. You pursue it more and more and more, but then you know certain people's like, nah, I'm not gonna mess with him. I ain't gonna talk to him like that because I know he gonna get upset about it, or he gonna retaliate in this way. All that depends on the respect you have for someone based off the boundaries they have set for themselves. So yeah, what I had to realize is that people will get comfortable with whatever you normalize. So whatever you allow people to consistently get away with, whatever you never check people on, they will get comfortable doing those certain actions, and they'll try and break that barrier more and more and more to see the limit in which you finally retaliate, to see the limit in which you finally say stop, or no, that's not allowed, or like, you check them on their actions. People.
Yeah, I think there is definitely something to that. There's definitely something to that. These are the kind of well, let's start at the start. He talked about like kind of social status and having to put on a facade in order to kind of fit into certain spaces. I think that is just the way that it is, and you probably care more about that, and you'll definitely care less about that year on year on year on year in life. Trust me on that, especially when you're kind of secure in yourself, especially if you've got achievements as well. So if you've got your degree, you've gone into work, you're going up the ladder, then you get more possessions and more these symbols, these kind of milestones of status in your own right, then you'll be absolutely fine. Of course, if you never put that effort in and you never attain it and everybody else is, literally your social status will stay low. You know what I mean? But anyway, and he also went on to talk about testing boundaries. Sometimes people will sound you out. Oh, will you get this for me? Will you get that for me? I'm talking about kind of relationships now. And they will test you all the time. And it's just about how you can respond to that, whether they think you cave in or not. And if you give them kind of some kind of respectful rebuttal, and it depends on the circumstance, and they may well get away with it better than at other times. Anyway, let's go.
Are just going to continue pushing and pushing and pushing until they see that limitation. And so you have to become aware of that and know your boundaries for certain people. Like, not normalize people getting away with certain things. Like, sometimes it might be as simple as people borrowing money from you. Like, people might consistently ask you for money because they know you don't have the strength to say no. People might consistently call you out your name because they know you're not going to do nothing.
Listen, if they borrow money from you because they know you don't have the strength to say no, then that is definitely on you. Then you got to get that backbone. You know what I mean? No is an easy word to say. You know what I mean? You say no one time, they know not to ask the second time. If you keep, oh yeah, well maybe, I've got this. That's a them problem at the end of the day. But if you make it a you problem and you lend more, then it's about, well, how much do you lend and when do you get it back? And you know what I mean? And then, okay, they didn't pay you back the last time and all that kind of this. Whatever you lend, you got to be prepared to lose, and it's better to not lose a friend. You know what I mean? And they have no expectation, no right to expect that you borrow them money, number one. But you can help them out by just sympathizing with the situation that they're in and wish them best. Doesn't mean you got to bail them out. That's not your role. They're not your dependent. Anyway, let's go.
People might consistently show some way, shape, or form of disrespect to you, and it may not even be to a point where it's intentional. It's all subconscious. Like, when it gets to a point where people subconsciously disrespect you and they're just like, oh, I'm not even disrespecting him. That's what he's just always allowed me to do. I don't even see it as disrespect. I just see it as this is allowed. When it gets to that point, then that's when you know you're in bad territory. That's when you know, like, you really got to start enforcing things. And what I've realized is that it's way harder to earn that respect or like get somebody to lower the limitation or see you as someone that they can't do certain things with. Like, say you've normalized someone always doing a certain action, it's going to be hard to unnormalize that for them without them seeing you in a certain way. So that's why you got to kind of enforce those boundaries early on so that it doesn't become their normalization in your relationship. And I think when it came to myself, and probably for a lot of you guys,
and again, listen, if somebody asks you something, nah, sorry, nah. That's it. No, sorry, nah. Write that down, my brother. You'll be absolutely fine. Can I borrow some money? Oh, nah, sorry, man. Nah. That's it. No explanation required. Oh, you might get me this? Nah, sorry, nah. You change you change that TV channel? Nah, sorry, nah. The remote's right there. Trust me, it works.
well, is that when it came to enforcing certain boundaries, you feared their reaction. Like, you feared whether they would accept you. You feared whether they would want to be in your life if you had that respect for yourself or if you retaliated or talked to them in that way. And that's why letting people miss out on you comes in, and just understanding that some people just aren't worth it and some people just aren't for you. Because what you also have to understand is that if you allow certain people in your life and they just don't have respect for you, like, then you can't trust them, then you can't expect them to put effort into you, then you can't expect them to show up for you in times of need. Like, sometimes you have to truly question, is lowering my
and until you accept people into your life and they have no respect for you. So you already know in advance that they've got no respect for you, but you allow them into your life. Now, why would that happen? I'm thinking about like school friends going into kind of like college, maybe. You know what I mean? You get the school, then you filter down to who goes to the college. They either got to go to college or go to the same one. and then it may well be uni, I guess, or you may be at that stage. You're going to the same bars and clubs regardless of stage, but you don't. So when I was that age, maybe it's just me. I had my group of friends who I really cared about, and then there was everybody else. You can't be pleasing everybody in the world, and even with your friends, they're friends because you got things in common, right? You know what I mean? And it's like, if that's not your circle, you got to find another circle of friends. You know what I mean? Which just means you need to be more open and receptive to the people you got more in common with, more so than kind of like excluding yourself. That's the start anyway. But anyway, let's go forward.
Lowering my boundaries, trying to force this person into my life, is that even a good thing for me? Like, what value does it bring to my life? Like, yeah, they might have this status, they may have this one thing they can provide, but don't allow that to make you overlook every other thing that they also bring into your life. The negativity, the disrespect, thinking they could get away with certain things. Like, for a lot of guys, when it comes to women, you might see, oh, she's pretty, oh, she looks this way, oh, she is good to me in this area of my life, she understands me. But what about when she gets to that toxic side? What about her habits? What about the way she treats your friends, or the way she interacts with other people in the world? Like, sometimes you can't allow yourself to get so caught up on the good that people provide to your life that it makes you overlook all the bad. And a lot of times the bad usually outshines the good. Like, they're bringing more bad into your life than they are good. You're just so caught up on the feeling of when that good is being given to you. So you're just so caught up on the fact that you can say you have a pretty girlfriend, or you can get sex out of this person, or you have someone to talk to, that you're overlooking all the other red flags in your life. And I'm speaking from a place of experience, because I've done it with like multiple people. I'm just now kind of becoming more aware of it, to where it's like now I can start changing certain habits, certain limitations, and certain boundaries.
Yeah, most definitely. Never overlook a red flag. And if you do overlook a red flag, that's on you or that's on us. You see this right there. It's right there, that red flag. If you overlook it, you gotta own it. That's right. Anyway.
With certain people, bringing things to light and being okay with however they retaliate to it. Some people may not even want to be in my life because they aren't willing to accept that new version of me. And some people aren't going to be willing to adapt to those new boundaries and realizing that they can't get away with certain things that they were able to get away with in the past. And even when you make certain mistakes with people, or you do people wrong, like at some point in time, you're going to like do something negative to another person, whether it's accidentally hurting them, accidentally disrespecting them, accidentally making some way, shape, or form of like a mistake, to where they kind of hold a grudge against you. But one thing you have to realize is that an apology is enough. You taking the step to actually start making change within yourself is enough. But what you shouldn't do is get in this headspace of thinking you owe that person something. And that's the headspace I got into, where I felt I owed another person all these various different things. And so as a result, I lost respect for myself. Like, never get in a situation where, hey, I messed up, so now trying to get your respect back, or trying to get your trust back, I'm now going to diminish my own worth. I'm now going to allow you to cross all these other boundaries. I'm now not going to hold you accountable for your actions. And I'm going to start normalizing all these various different things that I don't usually normalize. And so sometimes you have to realize, like, when you do certain things with certain people in certain relationships, hey, if it's negative and you have to change yourself and you can own up to your own actions, you can start making changes. You can ask for forgiveness. You can say that apology and just own up to your BS. But don't allow that to diminish the respect you should still have for yourself, and don't let that make you put this person on a pedestal in order to make it seem like you're trying to get back up to them, or earn them again, or get them to accept you all over again, or something like that. And again, when you start doing this, a lot of people are going to start missing out on you. A lot of people.
Yeah, I think it just depends, doesn't it? It just depends. So if you just took their car without asking, then you crash it into a lamppost, maybe you've got a little bit more to apologise for than if you just did make them a cup of tea. You know what I mean? So it just depends. But yeah, I think in the more general sense, yeah, you don't want to diminish. I mean, so it's just obvious, really, isn't it? Right? If you don't want to diminish too far, you don't want to have to kind of take too much humble pie. Yeah, definitely that. Yeah. I mean, is that what people do? I don't know. Yeah, I say this all comes from self. From self. What I'm really thinking is this all comes from how strong or weak a person you are. Yeah, so if you're easy manipulatable, then that is beyond what the other person is. That's to do with, you got to look at yourself and your decision making, and or your general outcomes. I mean, if it keeps it happening again and again and again to the same person, then he can't be everybody. He's got to be that person. And if that person's you, then you've got to own it and look at how you come across, I think is what he's saying. So if you are a weak touch on things, you're always lending money, and you always kind of blind eye things, or you kind of like actively encourage something which is may well kind of be to your detriment, then you know what I mean. Then that's on you. You got to set your own boundaries. I think that's what he's saying, and fair enough.
Aren't going to be willing to accept the new version of you. A lot of people aren't going to forgive your mistakes. A lot of people aren't going to be willing to abide by your boundaries. A lot of people are going to feel this sense of entitlement that you do owe them something, and that they essentially want you to suck up to them because of actions you did in the past. And they won't accept your apology, and they won't accept you making changes within yourself and you growing as a person as enough.
Now, this is a good point as well, that people might not accept that change. Listen, They've got something over you. They've uncovered a fundamental weakness in you, and they will pressure you to maintain that weakness in you. Okay, so yeah, fair enough. You need to stick to your guns of strength, and strength is just basically saying, no, 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 sorry, no. The advice I gave you earlier, and that's the polite version. The all the standard version is just to not give an answer at all. Yeah, can I have this? Yeah, just so I said, can I have this? I swear, if they get to the third or fourth time, they may not embarrass themselves for the fifth time. They may get frustrated, and even when you do, oh, sorry, I didn't catch that. They got the message a little bit that listen, it's a waste of time asking, and they're not going to want to keep on asking 4 or 5 times. Trust me, that is going to wear them down. Listen, and again, if you just kind of blind down, you got to find these different ways. It's kind of have a bit of resilience about you. Don't be that guy. Don't be that weak person. And if you are, again, you need to reflect on self. You need to have a few more kind of male figures in your life. As I say, to be honest, where he's coming from and this kind of like frustration or this new land that he's kind of encountering, or maybe I need to kind of set my own boundaries. You shouldn't really be having to have this thought in your 20s. I just think about where your father is in his life. And it's going to be, and taking it beyond him, there's many other people. I believe you need the yin. You definitely need that female. I'm making it female. You definitely need that female influence in your life. And just to go to the generalities, that's usually that kind of loving, emotional side of things. You know what I mean? They kind of rub you back when you're ill. You know what I mean? And that type of thing. And you got the yang, which is the male side of thing, which is that kind of long-term objective. Yes, okay, you've hurt your leg. It will heal. Now get up and play football. Or whatever, you know what I mean? So you need a balance of that. The situation is a problem when you only have one of those two things, right? And I'm not blaming things, but I'm just thinking about their outcomes. And what I'm blaming is outcome. And this is for the men, okay? So yeah, feel free to disagree if you disagree, but just kind of be positive or kind of constructive and lay out why you think you disagree if you're going to put it in the comments. That's fine. If you only get one side of things, basically, this kind of emotional side of things, and I say you don't really think things through, and you lend money to people like the example that he gave, and women ask you for stuff, and you feel you need to buy their attention and all that kind of stuff, and you're still working out whether this is a boundary that you're happy crossing or not. That tells me you haven't got that in earlier life. And that's what gives me that hint is you haven't had that male presence in your life. And that may well be because of your parents, and I don't want to go too deep. This may be about social dynamics, about in Western culture, let's say put it in the best kind of frame of light, where people marry for love and not because of fundamentals. Basically what I'm saying, if people don't get together for the fundamentals and create children for the fundamentals, then sometimes those relationships don't reach the level of marriages. You get one parent homes, because, you know, that child wasn't created with a long-term vision. Then that one parent does the best that they can. It's usually the female, the yin. And they do it as best they can within the frame of reference that they're kind of more inclined to. And then you get the men that are raised in the absence of that yang, the more kind of male objective thought as well. Then they have to figure this thing out at some point in life. And sometimes it's way down the line of life, you know what I mean? Or maybe they never really work it out. And that creates these kind of broken people. That's what I'm saying, basically. That may well be the foundation of the problems of why this guy hasn't already known that you don't allow people to manipulate you or have toxic people in your life. The end. Let's go forwards anyway.
They'll expect something more out of you. And that's where you got to draw the line. That's where you got to draw that limit, because if you get so caught up in trying to be the person who others want you to be in order for them to approve you, or trying to do enough for them to finally accept you back in or see you from this certain perspective, I promise you, it's going to be a suffering experience, and you just really going to end up losing a whole lot of respect for yourself and not even feeling good about yourself. Because like I said in past videos, man, like sometimes people just aren't for you. Like sometimes people grow out of your life. Sometimes the current chapter or the current season you're in your life, you're going to lose certain people. You might lose them now and they come back later in your life. You might had them for a long period of your life and then they're just no longer for you. Like, people are temporary and nobody is really ever permanent in your life. Like, sometimes the people you have now in your life is going to look completely different in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years, 10 years. Like, it changes so often because people just come and go for various different reasons. Sometimes you fall out, sometimes you just outgrow each other, sometimes people move away. Like, there's all these different reasons as to why people come and go in your life, and I don't want you to get caught up on trying to keep everything the same, trying to keep the people that have seemingly always been there, to the point that you again start diminishing the respect you have for yourself in order to try and force them or keep them around. Because you got to have the mindset that people are wants, people aren't needs, Anybody that's in your life currently can also be replaced, or there's better people out there for you if God decides, hey, this person isn't for you. Hey, you need to remove this person from your life. So don't ever get caught up or attached to certain people to where you do any and everything in order to keep them around, because you have to understand that sometimes there's better out there for you. Sometimes there's people that are better for you in this current season of your life or in this current version of yourself. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hope you learned a thing or two. Hope it brought you some value. Be sure to join up on the Discord, like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, I don't know if I learned anything at all, but listen, this is why you need a perspective of an older person to kind of like give some guidance to these people who just don't have it. And that is just AKA the younger person. I needed guidance in my younger self, of course. You know what I mean? You got to have those people around you in order to deliver it, or you just kind of work it out eventually. He mentioned something about respect a little bit earlier, and I just wrote down, people are basically not with you for what they can take from you. They're still with you, but they're not with you for the things that they can take from you. That is because of respect. But if they're only with you because they can take something from you, then from his own definition, that shows a lack of respect, and it's obviously an innate weakness, obviously, which can be overcome just by changing perspective. And that's not just kind of worrying that these people are going to leave your life. These people who are using you are going to leave your life. Okay, well, damn. You know what I mean? And some of these people may well be quite pretty. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean? If it's the other sex. That's what's called a life lesson. It's just like a no-loss situation. Trust me. Yeah, interesting video. Yeah, and so let me know. I'll say I'm happy to kind of do these videos, looking at other people at different stages of their life and just giving a perspective. For me, though, this is just kind of one of those easy things, like kind of easy meat, where you don't go in toxic circles, you don't associate with people who are going to move your life backwards. You see things for what they are, you don't overlook red flags, and if you do, you blame self, and you keep on blaming self and have that focus on self until you learn your lesson. If you're blaming other people, you're never learning that lesson. You know what I mean? So it's kind of things from that point of view. And like I said, I don't really want to sugarcoat things. I'm not a sugarcoat kind of guy. That's the way it is. Anyway, please like, subscribe. Let me know if you agree. Be constructive about if you disagree. All is good. Please like, subscribe. That is Steve, and I'm out.